Hello, it's Jennifer McGuire here, and this is a video that I've created for May Arts, which happens to be my favorite ribbon company. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a folded ribbon technique. It's really fun to do, and I seem to be using a lot of my cards lately. So it's what I did with this green, blue, and brown ribbon on the background of this card. Before we get started, I wanted to show you how to create this label here. I used a new stamp from Hero Arts in Basic Gray. It's this one here, but I don't want to use that icon on that label. So what I'm going to do is use my ink to ink up the stamp just around the edges of the label and on the greeting itself. But I'm going to leave that little icon there uninked so that it doesn't show up when I emboss it. This is Versamark ink, which is just a clear sticky ink that's really good for embossing. So you can see I'm being careful not to ink up that little icon on the side there. So now that I have that inked, I'm going to use my embossing tool here. It just puts powder out. It's called a powder tool from EK Success, and it keeps the white powder from sticking everywhere. So I'm going to put some white embossing powder on here, and then I'll end up with that label with that little icon not there. Now I noticed there was some powder where I didn't want it because I accidentally did get part of that icon inked, so I'm just using a dry paintbrush just to kind of brush that away. And you'll never know it was part of the stamp. So now I'll just heat this with a heat gun. And by the way, this is on Hero Arts daffodil paper, but you could do this on any kind of cardstock. Now, although I wanted this to be on a light yellow paper, I found that it was kind of hard to see the white. So I'm going in with some Distress ink here and just generously rubbing it over the white image just so it pops more. And that's what I result with here. And I just cut this out by hand. So now it's time to do the folded ribbon technique. I'm going to take this label and cover the back with adhesive. I'm using some Tombow adhesive here. It's just a really good, strong adhesive that rubs away if you need to. And I'm going to put one end of my ribbon behind the label. You could put this behind a button, behind an embellishment. This label seems to work really well here. So I'm going to glue the end of this May Arts ribbon back here. And then you can either have it come out the top or the bottom. You'll see it really doesn't matter. And then I'm going to put some more adhesive on the back of that ribbon. And then I'm going to fold it over so I end up with a loop that sticks out the top of my label. You can make this loop however big you want to. I find it looks better if it's slightly smaller, but you end up with this loop sticking out the top. Now I'm again going to put some adhesive on the back of this, just behind the label on the ribbon. And then I'm going to fold it again, this time resulting in a loop that sticks out the bottom of the label. You could use other adhesives for this. Any dry adhesive runner seems to work well. You could also try it with glue dots too. I think liquid adhesive is hard to do because you take time for it to dry. So now I'm putting another bit of adhesive on the back of the ribbon and I'm going to fold again. Now you can keep folding back and forth, putting adhesive in between each layer as many times as you want. Just keep in mind that the more layers you do, the thicker your folded ribbon will be. So I usually only do 2 or 3 loops on each side. Now this ribbon I'm using, they call it a striped twill. It's like a chevron ribbon. I think it's gorgeous and it comes in really nice colors. And you'll see a couple of the other colors here in a moment. This works great with any kind of ribbon. Usually it looks best with a wide ribbon. It's easier to control that way too. But the one thing that you need to keep in mind is if this is a ribbon that has a different pattern on the front than it does the back, the folded pleats don't look the same. You won't end up with all the loops looking the same. So I tend to do this only with ribbons that are the same on the front and the back. So now I've finished and I'm going to cut this top part to a finished edge. You could just cut this off whatever you want. I thought it'd be fun to cut along this little chevron pattern here. So I'm just going to cut it to a V and we'll have a nice finished edge. Now I'll show you in a moment how we can make this look like a continuous ribbon when we put it on the card. So we'll show you that in a moment. But there you have some fun folded ribbon behind this label. And you could stop there and just put this behind a small embellishment. But I decided to put together 2 of the other chevron ribbons with this. So this is like a light beige. It's just beautiful. And I'm going to repeat the exact same thing. I'm going to keep folding back and forth until I end up with the same size loops on both sides of the label. And then here I've got this light green, like this lime color, and I'll do this next to the blue on the other side. So you can just kind of play around with it. If you use one of these adhesives like I am with these little dots of adhesive, it's easy to kind of undo the ribbon and reposition the loops if you don't line them up perfectly. So now I've finished and I'm just going to cut my ends, and you can see that the ribbon's coming out the top and the bottom. Don't worry, I'll show you how to fix that in just a moment. You just want to make sure your loops all look good together. Now I have a note card here, a white note card that I've embossed with the Sizzix embossing folder. And I'm just going to glue my ribbon here. I just put some adhesive down, we'll add some more later. And now I'm going to show you how to give that finished look with the ribbon. So I just cut another piece of green here and cut the end to a V, and now I'm just going to take this, and here I got to cut it shorter here, but I'm going to take this and tuck it under the other loops, and so it looks like it's just this one continuous piece of ribbon that comes out the top, folds a bunch, and comes out the bottom. So it's just a little way to cheat to make this look complete. Now I'll do the same thing for the brown on the other side, and then for the blue I just need to tuck some under here that will just stretch up through the top of the card. So I'm just going to glue all these ends up here to the top of the card so that they line up nicely together. And I'll show you how to finish that off in a moment. Now to make sure this stays put, I'm going to put some foam dots here on the ends of those labels, and we're good to go. Now some people like to tape their ribbon to the back of the card. I just cut it right off the top here so it has a nice clean edge. And then I go in with this product from Ranger. It's called Studio Matte Medium. And I put a little touch of this on the end of the ribbon. It keeps it from fraying, and it dries clear and matte, so you won't see it. It won't look like you just put dried, like some kind of clear nail polish on the top. It's very subtle, you can't see it. But by just putting a touch of this along the top, you don't have to worry about the fraying or it coming undone when they're pulling the card in and out of the envelope. Now it's time to add an embellishment, and one of my favorite tricks is I like to take this natural twine from May Arts. It comes in lots of colors, but natural is my favorite. I like to create a bow with it and then put it behind an embellishment. So you just have the two loops in the end sticking out from behind the embellishment. I love this twine for many reasons. One is that it's inexpensive. Two is that it's thin, so it's not too bulky. And three is that it goes with any project. So I like to tuck it behind my embellishments. So this flower here is from Basic Gray, and I'm just going to pop off that button. I wanted to replace it with this brad from the Dear Lizzie collection from American Crafts. So I'm actually cutting off the back of that brad, and I want to add this with a foam dot to the center of this flower. Instead of using a white foam dot that you could see through the sides, from the sides of that brad and flower, I am using this clear foam. This is from Cool Tack. It's one of my new favorite products. I'm just going to put a little bit back there and stick it right on, and that way that brad will kind of stand up and give a little dimension, but you don't see the white from the sides since the background of this isn't white. So I'm just going to take this off. This flower has adhesive on the back, and I'm going to sandwich that bow behind this embellishment and onto the label. And this adhesive on this flower is strong enough to hold it. So you can see that bow adds a little bit of texture, but not too much bulk. It's one of the things I like best about their twine, and if you've been to my blog, you know that I use this twine quite a bit. So I'm just going to trim this off, and there you have a fun little bit of texture behind the embellishment. Now, before I put anything through the mail, I always go back and squirt a little bit of glossy accent or this Studio Matte Medium behind it so that it stays put when it goes through the mail. So I'm just going to squirt some here, and then I'll put some under the label by the ribbon so I can be sure that doesn't come undone too. So here's the finished card. I hope you liked what I did with the May Arts ribbons. If you have any questions, please visit www.mayarts.com or my blog at www.jennifermcguireinc.com. Thanks for watching.